If you've ever donated plasma for drinking money, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. My name's Daniel Lehman. I'm answering all your VA home loan questions. All right, guys. So today I'm going to talk to you about shopping for a home loan, and I'm going to use two really good examples of things that you see all the time because I'm on the Facebook pages and I always listen to what's going on around me. And I see people saying, hey, we got a great rate, and they charged us the lender we used had no fees. Or they'll say, hey, we had a great rate, but they won't talk about fees. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of how to shop for a loan. When you go to shop for a VA loan, the reality is there are always fees. The question is, how do you pay them and who pays for them and how does that affect your situation? So let's jump into it. The first example I'm going to give you is an example from our good friends at Navy Federal. All right, so I'm literally going to just go to www.navyfederal.org. I know what the outcome is going to be. I don't have to pre-check it because I check it all the time, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. Nothing wrong with Navy Fed. Nothing wrong with banking with Navy Fed. Nothing wrong with getting car loans from Navy Fed. Whatever you want to do. This is not to knock Navy Fed. This is to explain to you how to shop for a loan when you look at doing a loan, because you have to be very careful. And you want to look at three things. You want to look at the lender's fees, you want to look at points, and you want to look at the rate. And what most people do is they just look at the rate. So let me take a look. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If you go to loans, go to mortgages, the first thing you'll see is VA loans, interest rates as low as 2%. And that's big and in your face and makes sense. And you're like, wow, 2%. I was just shopping for a loan and maybe my rate that they gave me was 2.25. So Navy Fed looks better. But if you click on VA loans, the first thing you'll find is if you come down to the details, that would be on a 15-year fixed for a 2%. A 30-year fixed would be at 2.125. So you got to be careful because the first thing that they'll do is they'll say 2%, but it's not specific to the loan product that you're using. Second thing you have to do is you always have to factor in cost, and this is where it gets funky. Because a 30-year fixed at 2.125 will cost you 0.5% in discount points. Now, points, when you talk about points are literally percentage. So if you're doing call it a $400,000 loan, 1 point is $4,000. A $400,000 loan, a half a point would be $2,000. What that is that's a fee that you pay as a closing cost to drop the rate. So that's the first lesson, is you can buy down the rate by paying more in fee. Remember, I told you, look at rate and fee in conjunction with each other. The problem with Navy Fed potentially is that's a half a point. And then you go down to this little bitty small print down here, and that's where it gets fun. In essence, what you've got here are rates quoted above require a loan origination fee of 1%. So that's another point. So not only is this 2.125 at a half a point, it's also at a 1% origination fee. So what you want to look at is, as you're shopping lenders, you want to look at what is their rate, but what is the fee for that rate or lack thereof. So 2.125 is at a half point plus another point. So on a $400,000 loan, this would cost you $6,000 to buy that rate. And the reason why they do that, they show it so low, is because they want the phone to ring. Once the phone rings, they pre-approve you, they get all your docs, and then you're like, okay, sweet. And you see a $6,000 fee on your closing statement. You say, whoa, wait a minute, what is this? And they say, oh, well, we can waive that. But what do? In order to waive that, maybe wait for a 0.25% increase in interest rate. So for every 1% that they'll waive, they'll increase your rate and thereby your payment 0.25%. So we go back up here. We're at 2 1/8. plus, if we want to take away the 1 from down below, that'll add a quarter. So that's 2.375. Then we've got another half. So that would be at 2.5. So all of a sudden, if you're shopping with someone who's giving you a 2.25 rate, and you think this is cheaper, and that other lender is not charging any points, and Navy Fed is charging 1.5 points, once they work those points out, you end up with a higher rate with Navy Fed than you do with other lenders. But again, Navy Fed quotes the 2 1/8 big and bold, the 2 in reality, because they figure that'll get you clicking this button quicker, get you down the road. And once you're in deep enough, there is no turning back, or you run out of time, or whatever the situation is. So that's example number 1, is Navy Fed. In essence, what they're doing is they're quoting a rate, but the rate is lower and they're not super transparent about fee. So the next one to take a look at is a bank that says they have no closing costs. The problem is they end up not being transparent about their rate. It's a new day. So the next example is New Day USA, which you guys have seen these commercials. And so I gave you an example with Navy Fed of where they quoted super, super, super low rates, but weren't super transparent on fee. And again, the lesson to all of this stuff is you have to pay attention to fee and rate at the same time and make sure that the structure is right for you. So with New Day USA, a lot of times what they're focused on is no cost, no cost, no cost, no cost, no cost. You got to be really careful, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say no costs out of pocket. And a lot of times what they mean by that is they're just going to roll it into the loan balance. So that's fine. The other thing that you'll see is they'll say no cost, like we as a bank have no cost. If a lender ever tells you they have no cost, think about it for a second. There's no circumstance where an appraiser would be feeling good one week and just not decide to charge. That appraisal gets paid. The escrow company gets paid. The notary gets paid. So how is there no cost? In this circumstance, there's no out-of-pocket costs, no appraisal costs. What ends up happening, this is a perfect example. No out-of-pocket costs usually means what they'll do is they will roll it into the loan. And you have to be very, very careful of that, because you're increasing the loan balance, and you have to make sure that that's justified. Just because it's not out of your pocket doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and you'll have to pay it at the back end when you sell. The other thing is no appraisal costs. That doesn't say no appraisal cost out of pocket. That says no appraisal cost, period, as if the appraiser is just, not charging. But what's missing here? What was really prevalent in the Navy Fed example that is nowhere to be found here? Interest rate. What happens when you have a loan with no cost, and this is universal, is the lender says no cost, no cost, no cost. In the same way that Navy Fed's trying to get you to call them by saying low rate, these guys say no cost. So if Navy Fed is saying low rate and then increasing the cost, what these guys are doing are saying no cost and increasing the rate. So the key is what ends up happening, or at least what you have to get used to. Again, the idea here is just to give you examples that you're used to, not to bash New Day USA. It's a new day. The idea is not to bash them. It's just to explain what you're looking at. So the key is if you can buy the rate down and your costs go up. That's what Navy Fed does. Rate goes down, costs go up. You have to make sure that makes sense, because if you don't stay in the loan long enough to where the savings is justified by that cost, you'll lose money. In this case, what's happening is they're saying no cost. In reality, there's cost. The appraisal is getting paid, the escrow is getting paid, everything's getting paid. But what they're doing is they're raising your rate, getting a rebate from that, and paying your cost. So you're paying the cost, but you're paying the cost either in rolling it into the loan, or they'll increase your rate and pay your cost for you But it all has to do with planning again, which is why we're such sticklers for planning. What if you have $3,000 cost on a loan? Instead of doing the 3,000 cost, they raise your rate 0.5%. And then what if you keep that loan for a long period of time? You'll pay tens of thousands of dollars more on the interest over time than you would on the cost. So it's all about understanding that there is fee in conjunction with cost. And once that is covered, you have to understand an idea of your timeline and work within those confines and be intelligent about how you structure that. There are always costs, and just you have to always pay attention to that. So that's that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Again, the idea is that there are always costs to refinancing, and you always have to be careful of how you structure the refinance. When you're shopping for a loan, don't just look at rate. Look at rate in conjunction with fee. And fees go up, rates go down. Fees go down, rates go up. So you have to be really careful of how you structure it, because a lot of that has to do with what your timeline is. It has to do with what your goals are. And a lot of times when people think they're getting a really good deal dropping their rate, in essence, they're adding so much to the loan. They're adding so much to the timeline of the loan. They're starting over at 30 years. You have to be very careful in how you structure that. And unfortunately, not Navy Fed or anybody else in particular, you'll get mailers, you'll get all sorts of stuff. You have to be very careful. This isn't specific to refinancing. This is specific to purchases and everything else. You can structure your loan in a way that fits for your personal situation, and that's always a good idea to do. But the start of it is just understanding how things work. So hopefully this helps, and we'll see you on the next one. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you soon.